All right, so recording has started. Okay, after we covered the inheritance and we talked about the, I'll go through this example. Okay, this is the point and the circle that inherits things from point. Why? Because point, we discussed this, but I'll repeat it. Point has x and y, and circle has center, which has x and y, and has radius, right? R. So instead of writing new different classes, I'll write a class that inherits the x and y from this from the point. Here we need inheritance. You can declare, of course, as you can see, you can declare a circle without inheritance, class circle. Inside you'll put integer x, integer y, and double R. All right. Then you can, this is private, of course, because I didn't mention any specifier, so it's private. Then I can define the public, the constructor, which is also the name is circle, should be the same name, and of integer x, integer y, and double R. Then x1 here, y1 and r1. Okay, x equal x1, y equals y1, and r equal r1. Okay. Also, you can write any other methods or member functions here. It's up to you. This is the traditional way without inheritance. All right. But if I want to use inheritance, then I'll use this one. But first, let me just explain this point class. Point I have private x, y, and public point. This is constructor. Okay, this is what we call the constructor. Why? Because it's the same name and it's public and it initialize the class, the object. So integer get x, return x, integer get y, void set x, and if you remember, these called accessors and mutators. All right. Void print. Okay, these are all our member functions. All right. Now, the circle, as I told you, this is the traditional way. This is the ordinary way without inheritance. But here, if you use inheritance, then it will take everything. Now, if I have, this is the basic class called point. Okay, it has integer x, integer y, and it has point as constructor of integer x1, integer y1. All right. And I have the other method. Now, if I create a circle class, okay, then I don't need to redefine all these things because these will automatically be inherited here. So all what I need to do is to define the remaining features, remaining methods, the other members of this circle class. All right. So this is what I'll do. If you see, I just write colon and point. That means everything in the point will be part of the circle. Here, public double radius. Of course, I can make it even private. It's better, but it's okay, no problems. Okay, double radius. Here, the constructor. It's very important to know that the constructor of the circle will need x, y, and r, but I don't have here any x or y or r, but I have r here, right? So what will I do with this x and y? I will move them to the base class constructor, which is point of x, y, all right? And of course, the radius will be part of the this class. Now I can add any other points, any other methods, any other features, any other attributes. Here I added only find area, which is return 3.14 times radius because it's radius square. All right. So this is the inheritance. I have base class. I have derived class. The derived class will inherit everything in the base class, and you can add some more features. All right. Now, what are the types of inheritance, and what are the modes of the inheritance? So here we are talking about types, or we will talk types and modes. And what's the difference between these two things? This is a program totally. This is what some student copied it from here and put it in the assignment, which is not the answer. All right. So using this scop operator to show the inheritance, or to explain the constructor here, is very important. If you can see here, the explanation, this is also the column. Subclass can have more functions or methods like this one, and this is the main function. Now the inheritance modes. In inheritance modes, I have 3 modes. Like in everything in the classes, you have 3 types: public, private, protected, and private. And we call them the 3 P's. All right? Public, private, protected, and private. So the same thing here. The inheritance modes, we will have 3 types. It's the mode in which we want to inherit the subclass, such as public, private, or protected. The derived class doesn't inherit access to private data members. In all cases, it doesn't inherit access to private data members. However, it does inherit a full parent object, which contains any private member which that class declares. That means, I don't know if I've let me space. What's the meaning of this point? When I say the derived class doesn't inherit access to private data members. However, it does inherit full parent object. That means if I have a class, okay, let's go back to the point. Okay, I have private integer x and integer y. Okay, and public, let's say print x. Okay, let's assume this. And I have the derived class, which is circle. Okay, and in the circle, I have any other thing. Now, any other features. Let's change the color of this. Not change the color. Anyways, so the circle will not have access to this. Cannot access them, but it can access them through the public members. All right. So remember that in all cases, no matter what is the type of the mode of inheritance, the derived class can never access the private members, functions or attributes, whatever. It cannot access them. So this is the meaning of this point. The derived class doesn't inherit access to private data members. In all cases, private number in the basic class cannot be directly accessed in the derived class. These are very important. Don't think that since I will inherit everything, then I'll inherit the private members as well. So the types here are, the first type is public mode. The public member of the base class will become a public in the derived class. So if I have public, they will be public in the derived class. Unprotected members of the base class will become protected in the derived class. So it will be exactly the same. The same access to the variables. All right, protected mode. Both public member and protected members of the base class will become protected. All right, and private mode, both public member and protected member of the base class will become private in the derived class. Here you can see this is a very important example, easy, very simple example. I have class A, I have public X, all right. All right, I have public X, I have protected Y and private Z. There's no meaning or there's no, this class doesn't have any meaning, any thing. It's just for explanation matter. So the first type is public. How do you know that this is a public mode? From this keyword. All right, so class B will inherit from or the inheritance mode is public and will inherit everything public from A. Now, if X is public, why? Because it's already public, right? See, this is public. It remains public. Y is protected because it's protected. And Z is not accessible from B in all cases. Why? Because it's private. Okay, you cannot access it at all. So in this case, the public will remain public. The protected will remain protected, and the private is not accessible in all cases. All right. Now, if I change this, the access to become protected. The protected, the last two will be the same. Only the public will be protected. So X is public, and then it became now it becomes protected. Y is protected, will remain protected, and Z is not accessible in all cases. Another or the last type, class D, private A. Private is default for classes always. So X is a private, although it was public here, but it became private. The protected will become private, and Z is not accessible. So in general, if you can see the public here, the public in the base class, all right. If the inheritance is public, will remain public, right? The public, if the inheritance is protected, will become protected. I'm not going to talk about private because keep in your mind, private is always not accessible from outside the class. All right, so no need to talk about it. Remember, private cannot be accessed, and that's it. Now, of course, I have the third type, which is private. Okay, although it's public, but it will become private. Okay, so the public in the basic class, if the inheritance is public, will be public. If it's protected, will be protected. Is private, it will be private. The second type is the protected. Okay, if the inheritance is public, it will be protected. It will not be changed to be public. Public, yeah. If it's protected, then it will be protected. And if it's private, it will be private. So if you notice that to maintain or to make the class secure, I have never in any case changed any protected to public or private to, because this is the access should be from it's upside down. Let me again repeat this because it's very important. See, the top access or the highest level of access is public, which is accessed by anywhere and from any part of the program outside the class. Then the second one is protected, which is accessed by class here everywhere. Okay, by the class and the derived class or classes. All right, the last one is the private. You can change public to protected, and you can change protected to private, and you can change public to private, but you will never be able to go upside. You will not be able to change private to protected or private to public. This is impossible. All right, unless of course there are some code we can write, but this is the nature of the access. Public, which can be accessed from everywhere, can be changed to be protected or can be changed to be private based on the. So if you can see this, X is public. In public, it's public. In protected, it's protected. In private, it's private. Y is protected. In public, it's protected. It has not been changed to be public. Okay, protected. In protected, it's protected, and in private, it's private. So you can go in this way, but you cannot go in this way. Keep this in your mind. This is for security reason and for we called it at the beginning encapsulation, and this is the nature of the class. Okay, so this is called the mode, the inheritance mode. Now, inheritance types differentiate between the modes and the types. Types is a bit different than the modes. Here in inheritance, I gave you a simple example. I just drew this. It's a hierarchy, so that means I can take any object and see what kind of inheritance can be done. So let's discuss it like this. If I have a car, sedan car, a regular car, all right? What's the family of the car? Let's imagine like this. Think of it like this. Maybe the buses, maybe the trucks, right? And some other cars. So there are so many things in common between these things, like number of wheels, what else? Number of doors, speed, steering wheel, engine size, etc. So there are some common. So instead of having separate classes, I'll define a superclass called vehicle. All right. Now the vehicle, this is the superclass. I can define here the petrol. All right. I can define the wheels, number of wheels, number of doors, etc. All right, but this is just the one family. Okay, I have another, let's say, trains or railways. In other words, we are talking about the trains. The train, there are something common between the vehicles and the trains. What's the common thing between them? Both are transportation, right? So I can create another class. I'll call it transportation means or transportation. Okay, which has the common feature between the railways, the trains, and the. What are these? Of course, the number of doors is not one of the measures of the trains, right? The number of wheels also is not, but the petrol type or the fuel, right? Again, is it enough? No, still I have another transportation. I have, for example, ships. Also, they have in common the fuel type, for example. Of course, you'll find a lot of other things in common, but for simplicity, we'll consider only these things. The fuel, the ships can be here cargo or let's say travel. So in this case, you need to keep in your mind to extract the common features between the classes. This is how I thought about the transportation. I have railways, I have vehicles, I have ships, I have airplanes. All right, and railways, I think we have only the trains. I don't know if we have another. I don't think we have other vehicles or transportation other than the trains and the railways. But in vehicles, we have cars, we have buses, we have trucks, etc. In ships, we have cargo, we have travel, we have yachts also. In airplanes, there are some other things, but I stopped here. We can divide it into, for example, large scale. We can divide it into what's this Cessna, the small one, the private jets or the fighters, etc. But I don't want to go deeply in details. All right. So here in the cars, in the buses and trucks. So when I define the class car, I have to consider this. I have to have only one only super class that contains the common things between these things. So based on this, we defined, or the authors defined the types of inheritance. Very easy. The first inheritance is single inheritance. It means I have basic class. The basic class has attribute and method and derived class. Only it will inherit everything from the derived class. In addition, it can add some others. So in this case, this is the way we write it. The subclass, access mode, and the base class. For example, the class A, public, B. Okay, that means publicly I'll inherit, or class A will inherit everything from B. All right, this is example before. Yeah, it looks very uncomfortable to look at this unless I explain to you. So I will define class A step by step. I'll go through it step by step. So here I'll define class A. Right. In this class, I will only define the constructor. All right. Public. Of course, the constructor should be the same name. And what's in the constructor? I will do nothing here in the constructor, only print a message, cout. This is the constructor of class A. All right. Of course, the execution. I'm sure you know now the execution. This constructor will be called when you define a new object. Now, in the main function, we will just define variable of type A. That's it. Now, what will happen here? I defined a variable of type A, then in this case, it will call the constructor and it will execute it. And all what we will do is just to print a message. This is the constructor of class A. So let's run it and see the result. All right, we can run it now. This is the constructor of class A. Press any key to continue. I think we needed to add \n here. right? So again, all right, so this is what we got. This is the constructor of class A. Very well. So now I will define class B, okay, without inheritance now. I will just define it like this. Also, I will copy this. Public, but here also the name is B. And see out, this is the constructor of class B. Okay. I have to put semicolon. Then I'll define B. The variable name is B. Now what will happen? In the main function, A, when I declared a variable A of type A, it will call the constructor here. Let me take it and explain to you here. All right, so here in the main function, when I declared the variable A here, all right, from type A, at this moment, exactly this very moment, it will call the constructor. Okay, the constructor will be executed. Of course, we say the constructor is usually used to initialize the variable, but it's not the only way we can call the constructor. For example, here for simplicity, we just printed a message that this is the constructor of class A. So when it declared A, it will go here, it will call the constructor, and will print a message, this is the constructor of class A. Then, when it comes to B, I declared a variable small b of type B. Then it will call the constructor again, or not again, it will call the constructor here and to write, see out, this is the constructor of class B. So I'm expecting I'll get these two messages. All right, let's execute it and see. Okay, so this is what we got. This is the constructor of class A. This is the constructor of class B. Press any key to continue. Now, this is very clear and common, and no inheritance is there. Now, let me see if I put this. No, not like this. Yes, public A. All right. So, what's the meaning of this? That means I'm going to inherit everything in A and give it to B, all right, publicly. Anything here is accessible, can be accessed by B. So what will happen here? Also, let's take the screenshot and explain it to you. We need it all. All right, now see. When I declare the variable A, it will go to the constructor, all right, and print this is the constructor for class A, and that's it. But when I declare the class B, this is very important. First of all, it will go to the class B and finds that it inherits everything from class A. Then from there, it will go to the constructor of class A and print the message. After it finishes, it comes and check its constructor and find that this is the message. So when I declare class B, it will define all, it will execute both constructors, A and B. And this is the way the inheritance works. All right, that means it will, first of all, it will execute the basic class, then it will execute the constructor of the class itself. So I will remove A to avoid any vagueness. So I'm just declaring B here. All right, so built successfully. Okay. If you can see here, this is the constructor of class A, and this is the constructor of class B. Although nothing in the main function, we didn't mention anything about the class B. Okay, this is called single inheritance. It means it inherited everything from B inherited everything from class A. So this is single inheritance. This is exactly what's written here. Okay. So don't be afraid that a lot of instructions in one page. This is exactly what's written here. So you can read it now. So this is an inheritance example. For example, the car example. Okay, here class car, public car, see out. Although there were no functionalities, no member functions or attributes. It's just explanation. So public car, see out. This is a car class, and by the way, this is the constructor. Now, when you define a class truck from public car, truck, of course, this also the constructor of the truck. This is a truck class derived from car class. So when you execute it first here, when you find a car, it will execute only this constructor. But when you define truck, it will execute, it will go there, then it will jump there and execute this one, then it executes its own constructor. All right, multiple inheritance. Sometimes you want to, or not you, I mean the class itself needs to inherit features from different classes. Like, for example, the cars can inherit, if we consider this the car example, can inherit from vehicles and can inherit things from transportation, for example. All right, it's just an example. It's up to you, up to the programmer to decide. So how to call this? Here, class subclass name. In this case, if we consider it like C, access mode, let's say public. Okay, class access mode. You can specify a comma, of course, here. You can specify the access specifier with every class. Here, access mode, maybe you want to make it private, okay? And you can continue to have more classes or inheritance. Here, if you can see, I'll go back to our previous example. Now I have class A and B. I will remove the inheritance from here. Okay, and I'll define another class. By the way, to make it clear, I can remove remove the spaces here. So even public here, I mean the constructor, just to keep the some space. All right. So here I'll define class C. Inherits public from B, comma, protected, or of if you can select anything, I'll select public to avoid any unnecessary errors, from class A. All right, and here the constructor is public is a constructor C of. So all what I add in the constructor is a message. Okay, and of course I'll close the or a semicolon. Now, if I declare, for example, A, let's start one by one. I'll declare a variable A. So it will execute the constructor and only the constructor of the class A. Let's execute it. All right. So run. Okay. So this is I declared only a variable of type A. So anybody has questions?
هي شو فرق منه ترى شو
Yes,
هي
please,
ذاك
make sure
قصة حقيقة
that
عسكري
you're...
مستر
Yes.
سمع حرص
مستر try again.
Sorry. Now you can speak to me. Just unmute your phone, your microphone, and talk with me.
مستر
Anybody's... اتفضلي. Yes. Yeah. Anybody wants to speak?
مستر
Yes,
Yes.
Rawan.
مستر عيد المسألة شوية.
No problems, Rawan. Let me just finish this one, and I'll repeat everything to you if we have time. Okay, we'll open the discussion after that. This is only the last slide because I don't want to give you more slides. I'll finish this and I will open the discussion and we'll repeat it again. No worries. Okay?
Okay, Mr.
So, welcome. So this is the constructor or the message class A. Why? Because I just declared what a variable of type A. Now, if I change it to be of type B, okay, then that means I'm declaring the B. Okay, but here B doesn't inherit anything, so it will execute the constructor of class B. All right, this is the message that I'll get. Right, let's run it. Okay, so this is what I got. This is the constructor of class B. Now, when I declare class C, a variable from the class C, all right, this inherits from B and from A. That means it will go to B and execute the constructor. Then it finds that still I'm inheriting things from A. It will go to A and execute the constructor, and then it comes back to the class C, the basic, the derived class, and execute the constructor of class C. Of course, if I inherit more than from more than one class, basic class, that means it will execute all the constructors of the classes, and we will have all the features, all the member functions and member variables. So now let's try it. All right. Okay. So you can see here, this is the constructor of class B. This is the constructor of class A, and this is the constructor of class B. We didn't change the message here. We need to change it. Class C. Okay. This is the constructor of class B and class A and class C. Why? Because it has multiple inheritance. Now suppose that this is just something extra I will add. I have another class which is class okay, here I have class D, and also the constructor will just print this message, and the constructor will be D. All right, and here I will we will be having another class to inherit from, which is D. Then it will print B, A, D, then the C. So this is the multiple derived. Let's run it. Okay, and run. and C. A, D, and C. So you can inherit, or not you, I mean the class itself can inherit features, member functions, member variables from other classes or more than one class. All right? All right, so I think it's enough for today. Let's open the discussion, and I'll stop recording